Hello, my name is Christiane Heiligers, and I want to assure you it's quite okay if you can't quite place my accent. It's not British, there's no Australian twang, so where am I from? I'm from South Africa, and I happened to land in the US via an extended living period in the UK. My own travels bring us nicely to today's topic, which is what happens when your app needs to cross international borders. Let's start off with considering the bigger picture. Internationalization is only the first step in a larger process called globalization. And globalization is defined as the process by which businesses or other organizations develop international influence or start operating on an international scale. Internationalization per se is the design and development process that enables localization of your application so that you can communicate with folks in a manner in which they're accustomed. IBM has over 100 rules to follow for internationalization. And don't worry, I won't go into them here. You can read about them. What I'd like to do today is just highlight some perhaps not so obvious points to consider and useful libraries that you may want to employ in the future. The acronyms here, by the way, stand for the first and last letter in these very long words, and the numbers in between are all the characters in between. Internationalization, or I-18N, deals with designing such that you can accommodate differences in formatting with strings, numbers, currencies, graphics, and pluralization. Besides the obvious translation factor from one language to another, you may want to consider that some languages read in a different direction. Hebrew reads from right to left. Chinese can read from top to bottom. Dates and times are generally all right as long as you stick to either a 12-hour clock or a 24-hour clock, depending on what the locale is accustomed to. Please also keep in mind that there are actually 7 internationally recognized calendars. There's the Gregorian calendar, which we use for business, but the 6 others have to do with religious and social interactions. When you look at graphics, please try and also remember that different locales have different nationalities that live within them. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. The considerations specifically are try and use UTF-8 wherever possible. This makes sure that you have all the character sets available as a standard to accommodate for different languages. Your design needs to be flexible. It can't be static. So if you're generating a table or rendering out a table, make sure that you've got a little bit of play for an increase or decrease in word size. Social media is an interesting aspect. If you have buttons to, say, Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, if you're catering for China as a locale, remember to remove the Facebook link until such time as legal issues may be, resumed, sorted out. And the last topic here is multimedia. We often use videos as a source of information for help files to portray that little bit of extra information. If you've got a video in English and you cannot afford to have it reshot in another language, use either dubbing or subtitles, whichever is appropriate. Germans prefer dubbing, whereas a lot of other cultures like Israelis prefer subtitles. Now, this is a lot to consider. What do we have to do? Well, the browser does provide us a lovely INTL object to play with. And this gives us a hint as to how globalization and internationalization has been implemented in the past. If the only browser that does not support these APIs is Safari, but you can use Polyfill to make up for that. A quick search on GitHub has shown that there are numerous libraries. React International is very popular and has over 4,000 stars on it. And then there's the I-18N.js library, it's aka a Ruby gem, but that is very, very popular on its own, and it's not necessarily used only in Rails. It is a standalone JavaScript version. That's the one I will be showing today, and I will maybe just touch on React International briefly. The library itself, if you import it into your Node environment, you can see a whole set of different keys that are available to us, and it deals with issues that are listed in that table. To emphasize all of this, I've put together a quick app using Express and React as an example to just show that this Ruby gem is standalone. You can npm install it and use it. The little app I created doesn't actually do anything. All it is there to show you differences when you set a locale on the cookie. And I'll show 4 examples today, 2 of English. One is a US version, the other is a UK version. And then I'll go into maybe some more exotic languages, German and my second language, Afrikaans. On the left-hand side of your screen, you see the one that we would normally see. It's got dates and times that are formatted as month, day, year. We have the dollar symbol. On the right-hand side, the British version, we have the date formatting that has changed to day, month, and year. And we see the occurrence of the pound symbol. Now, I've done something that you should not do in these tables. I've hard-coded an exchange rate just to indicate the potential things that might arise when you're converting from one currency to one that has a much larger or smaller number, and how that affects the width of the columns in your invoice table. Nothing else in the text has changed. It's English as we know it. Moving on to the Afrikaans and the German versions, the one thing I would like to point out is the English selections here are written in the language in which you're trying to translate to. In other words, I haven't written German in the English German, it's written as Dutch, because if a German speaker does not speak English, they will not know which button to click to get to the language of their choice. In these 2 examples, we see that the text length has changed. Wording has perhaps moved around in relation to the numbers, such as the terms and conditions at the bottom. In the German version, we see the first occurrence of the umlaut. So we have to accommodate for the umlaut, which is those double dots on the A. In the Afrikaans section on the left-hand side, you'll see that converted from dollars to rands, the numbers become much, much bigger. And the German version, the typical separator between thousands is a decimal point and not a comma. That is the demo. How do we code this up? Well, I hinted to it before. We set a locale on the cookie, which we'd like to give a default locale in case any of your locale files are corrupted, and we can just default back to that. We then mount that into our routes on the GET requests, and we head off to our client side where we have a look at the biggest difference, which is in how we generate the table content. Our previously hard-coded text values in our table now all become references to an object value. That object itself is a nested object of objects. We will see here that everything is translated. The header titles, the table content. The only thing that does not get translated is technical terms. And this is our lovely JSON object. The object, this is what you would actually send off to your translator, either as a .js file or a .yml file, in which you can put comments to give context around what the translator needs to do. Otherwise, if you provide it as a JSON, maybe you want to consider, instead of providing the actual object, create some sort of inline tool that the translator can work directly on the render view and get as much context as they can from that. Now, to wrap up, I do want to mention Yahoo's React International. It's got wonderful help files and examples. You can look at the examples, and I definitely recommend this as an alternative. And with that being said, there are some resources. I've expanded on this in my blog post, and I wish you happy internationalization.